Now let's go back to the G8 and G20 and what is going to be discussed. Let's go live to CP24's special G20 correspondent, Craig Kielburger, with that part of the story. Craig.
I'm joined by Tony Clement, Minister of Industry, and of course the MP for Parry Sound, Muskoka, where the G8 leaders are meeting. Mr. Clement, thank you for taking the time to talk with us today.
On the show, Craig.
I want to start by asking, the G8, of course, is the news in both your riding here in Toronto, $1 billion in security costs. Some have questioned that's equal to the budget and the administration budget of the entire United Nations. Why should the sessions be taking place here in Toronto and Muskoka and not simply at the UN or an institution built to host these type of meetings?
Well, let me say, first of all, yeah, it is a lot of money. There's no question about it, that in order to secure both the leaders and their delegations, which numbers into the thousands, and the media and the local populations, it does take a lot of money to secure that. The costs for the security for the G8 and the G20 are in fact comparable to other large summits of this size. There are more people going to these summits than there were Olympic athletes at the Vancouver Olympics. Now, but the more important question is, why do it at all? And the fact of the matter is, face-to-face diplomacy matters. It matters because it helps our leaders understand one another and trust one another and resolve their differences through the force of their arguments rather than through the force of arms. And everyone knows that resorting to violence costs a lot more in terms of blood and treasure than the security costs of hosting a summit. So I think overall it is worth the money. This year it's Canada's turn. Next year it'll be France's turn. But for this year, Canada is proud to host these summits and to make meaningful progress on the issues that are at hand.
Minister Clement, you speak about the importance of dialogue. Here is breaking news coming out of Toronto that the police will be granted permission to use the so-called sound cannons as a communication device. And there's a new ruling that's come down, or a new piece of legislation passed, that anyone within 5 meters of the Toronto fence is subject to either search or ID to provide, or if not, they could be arrested. I look at your own past as a student in the university, very much actively involved in student politics and in raising issues of great concern. How do we balance the democratic right to protest and to raise a voice with the need for security at these type of summits?
And that's the critical point. Obviously, as a member of the Government of Canada, we feel that there is a right to peaceful dissent. There has to be in this country. We have to protect it and indeed celebrate it and nurture it. At the same time, there are those who attend summits from the outside who are seeking to disrupt the proceedings or to create an incident that could be potentially violent, and we have to protect our citizens and our guests from those kinds of situations. There's always a balancing act, and I believe that the police should use whatever tools they have judiciously, fairly, and with accountability, just like that would be the case for any other large event that is taking place within our borders.
And Minister Clement, one final question on the subject of accountability. Some sessions in the past of G8, Glen Eagles and others have been criticized by the leaders not following through on the promises. As a representative of our federal government and as the host of this fine gathering, if I may ask, how do you plan personally on ensuring that these world leaders help to live up to the promises that emerge out of the Muskoka region?
Well, Craig, we're very excited. Obviously, there's going to be a lot on the agenda for Muskoka, the maternal and child health issue for developing nations, protecting the world from nuclear proliferation, working together to combat international terrorism. But the point that both the Prime Minister has made and our Foreign Minister, Lawrence Cannon, is that there has to be accountability. We have to be able to measure the promises that are made at the Muskoka Summit and make sure that there's actual follow-through. So there's actually going to be a session on accountability, and where I'm hoping that the leaders will find ways to do better and making sure that the promises that are made at this summit and at future summits are actually followed through to the best of their ability.
Well, Minister Clement, we thank you for spending this time on what's certainly a very busy day for you, and we wish you a peaceful and productive summit in the Muskoka region. Thank you very much.
Sounds good to me, Craig. Thank you.
Thank you. Back to you.
All right, some good questions there. Thank you so much, Craig Kielburger, our G20 special correspondent.